Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and ready to scale your business without sacrificing your sanity? Let's dive into the secrets of building a dream team that will transform your business. In today's episode, we're pulling back the curtain on my team. I'm sharing valuable insights into our hiring process, and I'm walking you through my journey of building a team that supports my vision and allows me to focus on what I do best and how you can do the same. Hi, I'm Holly Haynes. I am a business strategist, and I teach you how to build a full-time business on a part-time schedule without relying on the social media algorithm. Today, we are going to talk about how to start small. So beginning with one key hire to tackle the time-consuming task, we're going to talk about hiring for a cultural fit, which really focuses on prioritizing values and work ethic over specific skills, how to delegate strategically and really identify tasks that can be delegated to free up your time, to build a supportive team and really foster a positive and collaborative work environment, and how to invest in your team so that you can provide opportunities for growth and development. I would love to be able to help you to take your business to the next level. You can join our community at hollymariehaynes.com/co-op, which is COOP, and learn how to build a thriving team that supports your goals. Welcome back to this week's Pep Talk. And I was so excited to answer one of the questions that I get asked a lot. And that is, Holly, who is on your team and how did you build your team? And so I thought, tis the season because we're really thinking about 2025 and what we want our business to look like, who we want to work with. And maybe the question is, who should I hire? Or should I hire somebody to help me with XYZ? And so I thought it would be fun to do a little behind the scenes of meeting our team, what they do, how I hired them, and a couple of lessons learned along the way. So first things first, let's do a little recap. So I started my business in January of 2020. I've shared this story before, but I didn't really make anything, as in no money coming in until about May of 2020. But before that, I had joined a mastermind, hired a coach, and launched a podcast. So we sort of did that in Q1 of 2020. And then in Q2, we're starting to see just a little teeny tiny bit of income coming in. It was through a mix of a course that I launched, which that's another story for another day. There's lots of lessons learned there and some one-on-ones that I was doing behind the scenes. So in the summer of 2020, I hired my first VA, Caitlin, who I met in a mastermind that I was in. She was actually serving and supporting one of the coaches that I was working with. And my sole purpose in hiring her was to help repurpose content. So this was the antisocial strategy at work before I even had a name for it. And we started at about 8 hours a month. Actually, I think it was 5 hours a month because I was like, okay, could you just help me 1 hour a week? And then we moved to 8 hours a month and have slowly evolved from there. But the goal is that she was taking the content that I was creating from the podcast, that long form content, and repurposing it for me. So it was like Pinterest and email. And it wasn't quite as robust as it is today, but it worked, right? So this was before AI and some of the auto scheduling tools that we have now, but the goal was visibility. So I was like, how do I get more visible to the things that I'm sharing with not doing more work? And so that was sort of the first answer. And we got it, which then led me to hire a podcast agency to help create our podcast. And in this scenario, I knew that my podcast was the driver of all things because we were now using it for this content strategy. But keep in mind that my corporate job was still fueling all the things and also taking up a lot of my time. So I still only had one course. It only had 4 people in it. I was doing some one-on-ones. And so my goal was could I just get enough one-on-ones that I could keep things afloat, which was now Caitlin and my podcast agency. And I knew that having somebody help me with the podcast would just quite frankly give me more time to be more creative, to create the thing that would bring in more income. So it was kind of like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But if you have a podcast or you're in the creative space, you know that creating the episode, creating the graphics, publishing it, editing it, like it was taking me a lot of time. And so I was like, if I can look at where I'm spending my time and think about how can I spend it more wisely, what I needed was more clients. So I needed to focus my time on creating something that was going to attract the right client in a way that supported our family the best. And that was not a course. And so in the fall of 2020, we now had Caitlin, who was my VA, who was still doing content repurposing, and my podcast team. And honestly, it stayed this way for a few years because those were the biggest items that took time away from me. And I was still working full time. So as a little recap, and I promise I'm going to get into some lessons learned here. During this time, so 2 years, I launched the club. And then the most important part, I launched what is now our collective co-op. It looked a little different then. We've given it like a full makeover. But I knew going back to how do I keep this afloat, like a course with 4 people and some one-on-ones was not doing it. And so I knew that I wanted to focus my time on building as much as possible while I was still working full-time so that I had income that I can invest into other things. And that's when I took the next step and hired Studio Classica, who's still with me today, and went all in on Kajabi. So Kajabi is like an all-in-one platform. If you haven't heard of it, our website sits on it. All of our courses sit on it. For a while, we had our private podcast sit on it. We run our membership through it. It didn't look like that at the beginning. But again, I was thinking, what can I do strategically to do less better, to save time and to save money? And so this is when I really went all in on building my website so that it could grow into what it is today, which also gave me an amazing home base. So if you're following that anti-social strategy, it gave me a home base to point people to. So now we had a really robust website platform that could do a lot of things for us, and we had SEO. So now I'm layering in SEO into our content strategy, which right now, as of today, is the number one way people find us. So you can see how this like strategy builds over time. It was like, how can I free up my time to create more of what I think my audience wants, but also aligns with that life priorities business model that we talk about so much. And so if you're following along, I hired strategically to build my home base, to take the most time-consuming tasks off my plate so that I could set myself up to leave my corporate job. And I also hired based on very specific tasks that I knew someone else could do. Which, P.S., the easiest way to do this is to keep track of what you do for a week. I don't know how many times I share this inside our co-op, but I'm like, open a Google Doc and write down every single thing that you do for a week. And then next to it, I want you to write do, delegate, defer, and delete. Because 90% of what you're doing, somebody else can do, which is so cool, right? So you don't have to feel like you have to do it all because you don't. Do you have to outsource it all at once? No, but capacity is your superpower. So if you can step out of the busy and into being creative, that's the best strategy you can create. You'll see the full forest, right? Or you won't see the full forest when you're down in the weeds, right? Like if you're down in the weeds digging in the dirt, you're not going to see like the beautiful blue sky. And so the goal is to get out of the weeds as a business owner and really think about what does that look like for you to free up your time. So I really, really, really recommend that sometime between now and the end of the year, you do that time audit and really think about where can I free up my time? How can I do less better? So back to our story. Going into the next 2 years, we've slowly added to our team using the same process. So every single quarter, I do a time audit and I think about where am I spending my time and what do I want my schedule to be? So listening to episode 480, you can learn the entire process. I went through the whole thing and then we've slowly grown from there. So today, I still have Caitlin. She is still our content repurposing queen, but she's also grown into being our community director. So she helps me run our club. She keeps everyone organized in the co-op. And I love that she's been with me for 4+ years because it's been really fun. Obviously, I've grown as a business and a person, but so has she. And it's been cool to sort of help her grow her business the way that she wants to as well. And so one of the things that I would recommend as you sort of listen to this story is hire people on your team, not necessarily for their skill set, but based on if they're going to fit in your culture. So Caitlin is a great example of this. It's family first. She believes in our clients. She believes in our model, but also she's been on 2 maternity leaves since we've started. And that's something that I'm really, really proud of because it supports her and her family. Another example of this is our podcast team is Amplify Boutique. So I hired my friend Kate, who was actually a student in the collective co-op. So you should support people that you believe in. But also she works with her husband and has a similar business model that my husband Scott and I do. So you can sort of see the trend. And so every week they take the 2 podcast episodes a week, they create the graphics, they create the YouTube posts and the show notes, and all of that is off my plate and then hand it over to Caitlin to help repurpose. And so the cool part is I love working with other family-owned businesses, and I'm excited to support them just as they are excited to support me. And that's a really, really important component of having a high-functioning team. So today, we still also work with Studio Classica. So they're our website team. They update our Kajabi website every month, along with, I like to say, all of my random requests and special projects. So fun fact, I am actually very, very, very technical. I actually have a degree in MIS. I did coding like back in the day, but that is not the best space for me. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. So I'm a big believer in that you should do it yourself once first so that you kind of learn the ins and outs. But then if you don't have to do it, can someone else do it for you to help you free up capacity? So I love working with their team because they can take my vision, let's say to host a 3-day backstage pass to our collective co-op and make it come to life. So taking away that technical setup has been such a game changer because it frees up so much time. Yes, I can do it. And I do recommend doing it yourself first, but what if you don't need to, right? What else can you do with that time? And if you listen to last week's episode 480, remember the hourly rate calculator we did? So you can ask yourself, like, is this worth the hourly rate of my time? Yes or no? So when I left my corporate job in 2022, I also now have my husband working for me. Truth be told, he is mostly free, but we do pay ourselves a family salary. But I knew if I could teach him things that it would take some things off of my plate and also help our family. So he does all of our books and taxes. He answers customer service emails. He does billing and support and ships the planners, does all the shipping sort of behind the scenes with Shopify, which is like a whole nother episode. And he helps run our quarterly planning meetings, which is also what I talked about last week in episode 480. So he's part of the team when we go through our quarterly planning meetings. So the big lesson learned here is to really take yourself out of the weeds, especially when it comes to billing or any support issues. And it can be someone else in your family that does it. But the goal here was that it wasn't me, because it is like a little emotional when there's some sort of billing or support issue. And I can stay focused on client delivery. So he handles all of our subscription costs, invoices, and it's been really cool to have him behind the scenes, but also having him know financially what's going on. So finally, this past year in 2024, if you're following along our little story, I hired two new team members, my copywriter, Jenny, and my ops director, Carolee. So copywriting came first because of our antisocial model. And when I was looking back at our data, which we talked about last week, all of our sales came from email, like 90% of them. So when we looked at where our income was coming from, I wanted to focus on the strategy to increase that, which was email. And so Jenny helps me create an email strategy every single week based on our monthly goals. And then we've added it into our content repurposing plan, which has led to Caitlin's expanded role. And it's really cool to have someone behind the scenes that takes your ideas and turns them into beautiful words. But also, since our strategy of content repurposing, SEO, the website, and copy, we've been able to double our revenue in the last year and a half. And so the takeaway from this is having aligned team members with a heart promise. This is what Jenny calls it. A heart promise is so key. And for us, the heart promise is that life priorities based business model. everybody I hire has those same beliefs and is excited about what we're offering because it's doing the same. So we're all in it together. And then last but not least, I did set out to find an executive assistant because running a team with 3 communities, anti-social school, the club, and the co-op, takes some time and some execution. And personally, I still wanted to follow that life priorities first model myself, being able to create capacity for me. And when you have a team, that takes a minute. And I also wanted to make sure I did it very intentionally. And so I brought in Kara Lee, who is now our ops director. And she honestly started out just helping me behind the scenes with admin things. But also the cool part was because she was in our co-op program also, she has learned our entire business as it's been growing, but then was able to take that and built out our ClickUp hub, which now we use for everything. She runs our quarterly planning sessions. And what it's allowed me to do is really step into that visionary role. And so slowly but surely moving into, hey, here's my vision. Let's work with the team to bring it to life. But also behind the scenes, she's helped me create SOPs, process documents for our team, and just making sure that everyone's workload is appropriate and we're not missing deadlines and we're communicating things and everything's in alignment for the schedule that we have set out at the beginning of the quarter. And so the really cool thing about having Kara Lee behind the scenes and someone else that's not just me, running the day-to-day, is it's allowing us to take longer vacations, to take the entire holiday off. So our goal this year was to build a team that supports other women-owned businesses and give them time off with their families. And so this year, our whole team is taking a full 2 weeks off. And I really hope to do this more in 2025. And so my lesson here is, one, to just answer the question, who do you have helping you? Because I do have help and it's not just me, but also how did it start? And how did you hire along the way? So hopefully this story gives you a little insight, but also the biggest takeaway here is to become a visionary of your business. You don't have to be the integrator for all the things. And so me stepping out of the weeds has even allowed me even more to keep better boundaries with my family, to make sure that I'm over-delivering with our clients, and to create new things, right? That's the most important. Plus to have some QA checks in place so that we're making sure that we're delivering the highest quality product. So this is a little sneak peek at our team currently. Behind the scenes in the co-op, we have a couple of other members who help me run the co-op. Most importantly is Madeline, who is our creative director. And she comes to support our other co-op members, both inside the co-op. So she's an alumni and she does all of the content, the done for you content prompts in the co-op. Plus she does B-roll and teaches content at our retreats. And this is really special to me because inside the co-op, we give you access to our entire team and teach you how to build your own, right? So the way that we built ours is a little bit unconventional. And I think the important message here is we're hiring for the person that can help save you the most time and make the biggest impact, which is different for everyone. So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. But also, my advice is to hire for the person that has the passion that you do. Hire for the person that is so excited to help you build your vision, because you can teach the skills, but you can't teach the passion and the excitement. And so I'm really excited going into 2025 to teach all of our new co-op members how to build their dream team. And I'm happy with this episode to answer any questions you have about scaling, building a team, and more. I am just a DM away, and I'm excited for you to be able to learn a little bit more about all the amazing women that are on our team. But also, I hope that this inspires you to think about where adding help and support can actually get you to your goals faster, even though it feels scary and unknown at first. So capacity and time is your superpower, and I can't wait to see what you do next.